Sentinels are a professional Valorant esports team that are based in North America. The organization formed the Valorant team in April of 2020, shortly after the game's release, and quickly rose to become one of the most dominant teams in the scene. But now underlying questions are asked by everyone. What made this team so good? What was the beginning of their downfall? And why are they in the position they are now? Let's begin and understand how Sentinels quickly rose. So, we need to look back at their past performances. Sentinels quickly became a top-tier team in North America. They won several major tournaments, including their first ever international LAN, the Reykjavik Masters in 2021. They continued to dominate, winning tournament after tournament, making everyone scared of this team. That's when Masters Berlin approached, the second LAN event in Valorant history. After making the playoffs with 3 wins and a loss to G2, Sentinels would face Envy, their North American opponents, in a win or go home game. After a back and forth Haven map, Envy prevailed and won 15-13 and took split 13-7.
Found is traded out again. Yeah, he's there. It's all on Shazam, and it's over. It's done with. They say when you come for the king, you best not miss. And Envy, they didn't.
This ultimately sent Sentinels packing, and no one knew what went wrong for the North American powerhouse. People were starting to ask a bunch of questions after this defeat. Is their run over? Is this the start of the end for Sentinels? No one knew the answer to that question though, but it would evidently be shown in Valorant Champions LAN, the biggest event of that year. With everyone questioning Shazam's role-calling ability, Sentinels decided it was time to hire a coach. They ultimately brought in Raucus, a former FaZe pro. Sentinels were placed in a group with Brazil's Furia, EMEA's Team Liquid, and Latam's Crew Esports. Sentinels once again had high expectations. Their first game didn't go as smooth as they wanted, but eventually prevailed with a 2-1 win over Furia. Their next game against Liquid might have came as a surprise to many fans, but for some, it was exciting to finally see the headshot master Scream go against arguably the best player at the moment, TenZ. The first map didn't go to plan as Sentinels lost 12-14, but this clutch by Zoms was too amazing to leave out.
Zoms, there it is, there's a snake bite. Can he stop this? Is a snake bite going to be enough? It is going to deny this one for now.
Nice! Oh my god!
Free gun! Free gun!
Yes.
Free gun! Free gun!
It is going to deny this one for now. There goes the planting.
Holy shit!
It is going to deny this one for now. There goes the planting. He's going to. Oh! That is Zoms! He's pulling it out of the bag out of nothing!
Their next map, Bind, saw Sentinels dominate with star player TenZ fragging out and going 21-6. Unfortunately, they fell short of the series and lost the final map 13-10 on split, leaving them in a win or go home spot. Sentinels knew what needed to be done and won the first map 13-7 on Fracture against Crew. They came into map 2 in good position, heading into the half 8-4 up, but after a long fought battle from Crew, they ended up losing the map 13-11, meaning map 3 was the decider. Sentinels once again ended up leading 8-4 in the half, but just fell short as they lost 13-11, ending their run.
It's over. It's done with. Crew against all of our expectations, against all odds. Send Sentinels home.
People are now even asking more questions. Why did they even hire a coach? Is Shazam the right IGL? What went wrong for them? Let's head into the next year, 2022, where Valorant had announced a franchise league. There will be 3 leagues, the Americas, Europe, and Pacific League, that will compete in their respective regions to earn a spot at LAN. Not all teams are going to make it though. They would have to be chosen, and if they weren't, they'd have to make a run through Tier 2 Valorant or release their team. This came as a shock to all and spewed lots of negative reactions from the community.
Thoughts about franchising players, LFT? Everyone's fucked, bro. Everyone's fucked. No, I don't know. All I know is all I'm gonna say is that Sentinels better have a bomb-ass team, bro.
Let's backtrack a bit though and talk about the ongoing tournament at the time, VCT NA Season 1 Challengers. This was the first event of 2022, and Sentinels are the name that just keeps popping up. With no roster moves and no coach, they remained vigilant and were willing to give teams a fight. They were placed in a group with Energy, Rise, Optic, V1, and Pittsburgh Knights. After playing all 5 games, Sentinels won to Energy, Pittsburgh Knights, and Rise, but fell to the current NA powerhouse Optic and V1. This meant Sentinels went 3-2 and qualified for playoffs to earn a shot at Reykjavik. They played the Guard first, who upset Sentinels 2-0, including a 13-1 victory on Icebox. Their last chance was through a lower bracket run, with their opponents being version 1. They got off to a fantastic start with TenZ popping off, but fell short of another opportunity as they lost 2-1.
Cannot be done. It's version 1 who are going to be knocking out the former Reykjavik champions.
This loss was the start of changes that needed to be made. Sentinels decided to rehire their former coach Raucus and give him the head coach role. With the addition of that, Sentinels made a surprising roster change and added Kenpeki, dropping Zombs from the roster. We'll have to see if the roster change was worth it in the upcoming VCT. To make a long story short, Sentinels went 0-5 in their group, their worst ever performance. This ended Sentinels' playoffs and LCQ hopes. But wait, it was determined that if Ghost Gaming did not advance to the second round in the upper and lower bracket, it gives Sentinels a shot at VALORANT Champions Istanbul. And that's exactly what happened. Sentinels moved up and earned a shot at LCQ, and there were lots of discussions about their roster. So 2 weeks before LCQ, Sentinels made 2 roster moves that shocked the entire VALORANT scene.
I'm back, baby.
Sources say Zelsis is set to join Sentinels. He'll likely be playing with the team for the VCT NA LCQ next month alongside newcomer Strudel.
With these 2 additions, Sentinels were now Tens, Dapper, Shazam, Zelsis, and Shroud. LCQ had arrived with Sentinels playing the guard. It started off a bit shaky, but the guard forced overtime where eventually Shroud closed out the map with the 3k. Sentinels still showed signs of struggle on Ascent as they fell 13-10. The decider was Icebox, a map that Sentinels got destroyed to the guard 13-1 in Split 1. They forced overtime after being down 9-12 at one point and went up 13-12, but they couldn't close out the series and ended up falling to the lower bracket where they faced Shopify Rebellion. After the first map of Breeze, Sentinels dominated and took the map 13-8. The next map was Fracture, and Sentinels looked like they were in cruise control with a 12-8 lead. Shopify fought back though and held Sentinels to 4 overtimes, where Sentinels finally closed the map 17-15. With this win, they advanced and faced 100 Thieves. They took map 1 of Fractures 17-15 in stunning overtime fashion. Unfortunately, they lost Breeze 13-7, meaning that the decider was Haven. Sentinels were down 8-4 in the half. The score was 12-9, but this clutch by Zelsis showed Sentinels that they shouldn't give up just yet.
In a 1v2, 1 HP. Can he do it? The spam not gonna land. The Prowler on the other side, waiting to see if someone's gonna swing him garage, and no challenge.
And they didn't. They made it 12-10, then 12-11. One more round and they would go into overtime. After getting Plant down, 100 Thieves winning gunfight after gunfight, prevail and win 13-11, which ends Sentinels' LCQ run. This wraps up Sentinels' year, but they were in a good place as they did in fact make it to franchising. VALORANT franchising was a war. There were many free agents looking out for new homes and new teams. Sentinels were one of them. They first announced their new management team, Psycho, former Exit head coach, Kaplan, former Ghost head coach, and Drew Spark, former Exet analyst. In addition came 2 Exet players, their new IGL Def and Flex player Zekin. Sentinels also added 2 world champions from Loud, Pencata and Saucy. To complete their roster, Sentinels re-signed Tens, which fans saw coming. They also re-signed 6-man Sick, who was their backup Flex player. Now, let's go to VCT Lock-In, a single elimination bracket of all the franchise teams split into 2 groups. The first game of Sentinels season was against Fnatic. With new cores and management, no one knew what to expect, but the crowd was definitely on Sentinels' favor. After a disappointing showing, Sentinels lost the series in 2-0 fashion, eliminating them from the first LAN event of 2023. Shortly after, they indefinitely suspended their 6-man Sick due to his behavior. With the VCT Americas League coming up shortly, Sentinels were desperate to look for a sub. So who not better than to get a former world champion in Marved.
This song, would you fall in love? Would you fall in love if I saw you at the club? Would you fall in love? Would you fall in love? Yeah.
A former smokes player for Optic, he can shoot straight as heck and can dominate under pressure situations. The VCT Americas commenced on April 1st, with Sentinels playing 100 Thieves in the opening match. Tens continued to dominate, while the 2 world champions Saucy and Pencata were in a league of their own, constantly winning clutches. Saucy had a breakthrough performance on Sage, but Sentinels lost split in overtime. The last map, Ascent, went all the way. Sentinels down 12-9 knew that they had to show up, so they won round after round after round and forced overtime. Eventually, they ended up closing the series 2-1 and won their first league game. Their next game was against a strong NRG. NRG had adapted the Optic core with the additions of Som and Artis. They proved to be in another class as they dominated Sentinels 2-0. People mostly questioned their composition of double controller. Both Saucy and Def were not in their comfort zone, meaning that they could not perform at their best. Things were only getting worse though. TenZ was recently diagnosed with cellulitis. While people were hoping that he would rest, he was forced to play under the circumstances in the next game against Leviathan. Sentinels made a surprising switch up as they moved TenZ to Sage, an agent where he can just play back and relax. That being said, TenZ went 17-17 and contributed as much as he could, but unfortunately Sentinels lost 14-12 in overtime. Their next map, their young star Zekin took the spotlight as he went 29-17, winning the map for Sentinels with an insane 2v1 clutch. Unfortunately, Sentinels could not close out the series as they fell with a harsh Pearl defeat ending 13-4. Sentinels were not living up to expectations, and this was also saw by their owner Rob Moore. That being said, a day after the loss, he announced that he was letting go of their head coach Psycho. This roster move not only shocked the Valorant community, but wait, speaking of Valorant community, let's talk about how it can affect a specific player in TenZ. TenZ is a killing machine when he can be active, but when he gets a lot of unnecessary hate, his response is as simple as can be.
Keep watching, I really don't care.
But recently, after underperforming against Leviathan, Sentinels are subbing in world champion Marved. The Valorant community should be more focused on how someone feels instead of trolling and hating on them, given that TenZ is one of the nicest and humble players out there. With that being said, Sentinels have just announced that TenZ will be getting a much deserved break and will be sitting out the rest of VCT Americas. This means Sentinels will now play with Marved for the remainder of the season. When Marved has played for Sentinels, he has gone positive both occurrences and lifted the team to their second win against MIBR. Sentinels have 4 games left in the season, so can this roster move bring them back to their prime? Sentinels rose to the top quickly, making a name out of nothing. Everyone was eyeing them though. After Berlin, it seemed like they keep making mistake after mistake, and eventually they couldn't hold on to their original core. Can Sentinels ever be the crown champions they were before? Well, we'll just have to find out. I'm Kareed, and thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it.